Hello everybody, welcome to another video and welcome to an iPhone 7 unboxing. Oh yes. I have never owned a brand new Apple product before. I have never walked into an Apple store and walked out with a brand new Apple product before until today. This is an iPhone 7 32 gig in matte black and it is all mine. I have been using, I'll just grab it, this Nexus 6 for the last year, and it has probably been the best phone I've ever used in my life up to this point. I've adored using this for the last year. If you haven't seen the video, by the way, on the polished aluminium frame and the custom black cover, I'll leave an annotation on screen now. It's a pretty cool video. But yeah, I just love everything about this phone. I love the size, for one, the 6-inch display. That will be something that will take a bit of getting used to, going back to a 4.7-inch. I love the stereo speakers, and I love just the whole Android experience. I've been using Android for over 3 years now, since ditching iOS. And I've never really been tempted to come back. I think the last iPhone I used for any extended period of time was an iPhone 5. So it's been a while since I really used iPhones properly. Then I was watching the Apple event in September, and they announced this guy. I was never really a fan of the iPhone 6 or 6S. It never tempted me in the slightest. I thought the antenna lines were ugly. The camera hump was just revolting. And this phone here feels like what the iPhone 6 should have been. The design is much sleeker. Although the camera hump, I will never ever like a camera hump. It's probably the prettiest camera hump I've ever seen in my life. The way the kind of aluminium body curves around the lens. The antenna lines are much more subtle. I really like the matte black colour. I was tempted to get the jet black colour, but I just kind of had to put my sensible hat on and realised that it would scratch every single time I looked at it. So I got the matte black instead. And yeah, along with the stereo speakers, the waterproofing, the supposedly insanely great camera, it just tempted me. It got me excited about iPhones again. So yeah, here we are. A lot of money later, and I have an iPhone 7 in front of me, and I am super excited. It's been years since I unboxed an iPhone. So here we go. Not too difficult to open. The Apple boxes of late are infamous for being absolutely impossible to get open. But here we have the little Designed by Apple in California booklet on the top with the Welcome to iPhone. We have Apple stickers, yep, and the SIM eject tool. So wow. The last iPhone I think I properly unboxed in its original box and stuff was the iPhone 4S, I think it was. And that came with a big old booklet to get you started. That comes with literally one piece of paper. But yeah, there it is, guys. My iPhone 7. It doesn't actually, I was expecting it to look like a dwarf compared to, I mean, kind of, looking through the viewfinder actually, it does look a lot bigger of a difference. But in person, it looks a decent size, guys, it does. So, let's lift it out. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That is a very well put together device. Oh, man. Solid. I love, the one thing I loved about the 6 design, and it's been carried over into the 7, is the way you've got a kind of seamless curve all the way around the body. The display on the front kind of just merges and melds into the back cover. I absolutely love that. That's such a nice phone. We'll get back to this in a minute and do the classic unboxing, look at the accessories first. Here we've got the, is it 1 amp? I think it's a 1 amp charger. Yes, 1 amp charger. I won't be using this, I've got a fancy 2 amp wall pluggy kind of thing on the desk over there. And yeah, the earpods with the lightning connector. Now the only really time I listen these days to music on my phone is when it's plugged into my car. So I don't really listen to music with headphones plugged in, so I probably won't use this guy, the little adapter, which I am very happy that they've included in the box. When the announcement was underway. I really expected Apple to say, by the way, you can buy this adapter for an extra £10 or whatever. Obviously you have to pay that if you lose this or it breaks, which it bloody well will, because it's an Apple cable and Apple cables are built with fairy dust. But yeah, it's nice that they include that in the box. But to be honest, I'll probably just use the earpods. I've never really had an issue with the earpods, and for just kind of on the go audio, they'll serve me just fine. The lack of the headphone jack, yes, it's a bit annoying, but it is in no way a deal breaker for me. I don't think it is the next revolutionary step. I don't think other manufacturers have the balls to follow Apple with this one. Because the reason why Apple have done it is because they have such a monopoly with the Lightning connector. Every other manufacturer is going to be using USB Type-C in the next couple of years. So unless headphone manufacturers take their own initiative and start making USB-C headphones, I don't see other people following Apple's lead here. I think this is going to be a purely Apple thing. I think Apple are just basically making and creating a market for Lightning headphones. That's my stance on the whole situation, at least. Mini rant over. We've got the USB to Lightning cable here. Again, I'll probably have to buy 5 of these just to have in reserve, because this one will inevitably break even. But yeah, here we go. I've never had the privilege of doing this before, guys, so this is quite the moment for me. Oh, that is the most satisfying feeling in the world. I totally understand. I totally understand. Oh my goodness gracious me, that is such a nice finish. Originally I was swayed by the jet black, and I was convinced I was going to go with the jet black iPhone. Then I went into the store and saw them in person, and yes, the jet black looks great when no one has touched it, but I think the thing that put me off the jet black more than the scratching was the fingerprints. Scratching you can kind of avoid, and scratching you can kind of hide if you put the phone in the right light, but fingerprints you cannot avoid. And I actually preferred the matte black when I saw both of them in person. I preferred the matte black when I saw them both in person, and I mean, just look at that, guys. That is absolutely just stunning. What a beautiful phone. Oh my goodness me. Absolutely stunning. So let's turn her on, see if she's got any charge. Of course she does. Oh guys, it feels good to be back. It feels good to be back. One thing I'm definitely going to have to get used to, and I know for a fact, like I'm trying to click the home button here. Oh, it's coming. It's bounced into life, or sprung into life. I don't like it.
Alert.
I've turned something on by accident. I'm just gonna basically set. Please shut up.
Home to open. Button. More info.
I don't know.
Button. Voiceover off.
Okay, there we go. I finally turned it off. Yeah. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run away with this thing. Oh, there's no slide to unlock anymore. Oh no. That's awful. That is awful. I hope you can turn that on in settings. I believe you can. I'm a bit of an iPhone noob at this point, because I've been missing from the iOS scene for a good 4 versions. iOS 7 was the last version of iOS that I used properly. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve again to kind of... Oh, God, they're both so pretty. They're both so pretty. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Going back to iOS, I think all of my Google integration is going to have to be moved over to iCloud and all that sort of stuff, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. So yeah, I'm going to run away, try and calm myself down, because my heart is pounding at 200 beats per minute, and yeah, I'll report back in a couple of days and let you know how I'm getting on. So those couple of days have kind of turned into a couple of weeks, but yeah, I've just been kind of just using this, as I said, copied everything over from Gmail to iCloud and just getting used to using iOS again, because coming from Android, it is a big jump, a surprisingly big jump. Having completely everything open to you, being able to mess around, customize everything, flash custom ROMs, to go from that to this, which is very much the walled garden of Apple. You're limited. You can't even put icons in the bottom left corner unless you filled up the rest of the screen, and there are pros and cons to that. People like Android because it's open and because it's customizable and everything. People like iOS because it just works. And I kind of weirdly sit in the middle on that kind of thing. I like something that works, obviously, and I like to have a little bit of customization. But yeah, there's pros and cons to both. And I've got to be honest now, guys. I've been using this for the last couple of weeks, and it's just been great. It really has been great. It is a solid iOS experience. You know exactly what you're getting. What you're getting is insane speed. This thing is stupidly quick, like just ridiculous, like laptop speed quick. If people are disagreeing and saying that Apple aren't going to be putting ARM chips, like Apple A15X whatever's in their Macs one day, I would seriously suggest to reconsider that, because this is a screamer of a CPU. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. It is unbelievable to think that this is how far we have come in terms of mobile smartphone performance in the space of just a couple of years, really. It puts my Nexus 6, which is by no means a slow phone, to absolute shame. I'm sure you've seen this loads of times, but simple things like the animation it takes to open an app, by the time that animation is already there, the app is already open. It's just stupid quick. iOS 10 has been brilliant. I like this little, it's similar to the OnePlus shelf. You can put widgets there. I use for when I'm coming home from work and stuff. It's just really helpful to have that there. It's much better than what was in, I think, iOS 8, with the kind of, it was just like Siri suggestions and news, I think. I didn't find that very useful at all, but that's much better, being able to put what you like there. And iOS 10 has been great. Feature-wise, it's been perfect. The little things it's added has been great over when I last used iOS back a few years ago. And I haven't had a single app crash on me in the entire time that I've been using this phone. And that is a feat. Given how complicated and how complex these mobile OSs have got now, to have still the just supreme level of stability that iOS has is still unparalleled. I'd have apps crash on Android once every couple of days or whatever, and while it didn't annoy me per se, it's nice to just have everything that just works. Hardware wise, this is a very well put together device. As you can see, it does attract fingerprints, this matte black color. But yeah, it's so the quality control and just it's just insane. It is a really well put together phone. The little things like the satisfying click you get off the mute switch and the tactile buttons, it's a really well put together phone. It's nice to see Apple that's still prioritizing build quality and stuff like that. It's a really beautifully put together device. But I'm sure you'll be able to see there that little chip on the paintwork, and if I if I give it a wipe and put it in the right light for you, I almost dropped it again. You might not, yeah, you can just see it there. That is basically my first run-in I've had with this phone. It's basically a bar of soap, guys. The curved edges and just it's so slick. The material on the back is really slick. It's so easy to just slide out your hands. I was sat on the sofa. This was next to me. My phone buzzed, so I went to pick it up. Notification, and it just flew. It absolutely flew. It went flying out of my hands across the room, scraped against multiple metal objects that were in the room, and just landed behind the TV. It just went flying at about 80 miles an hour, and my heart just sank. But thankfully, it was only those kind of scratches that you can only just see when you put it in the right light, and a little bit of paint chippage on the corners there and there. It definitely cured my new phone syndrome, but still, this thing is very slippery, and I think it's similar to when the iPhone 5s came out in black. People were complaining about Scuffgate. I'm sure you remember that from back in the day. About the black paint chipping off. You will get that with these matte black phones. If you do scratch them, then naturally the anodized coating will come off and you will be left with the bare aluminium. So when you are kind of to and fro in between jet black and matte black, do take into consideration the jet black. Yes, it might scratch easier, but you get extra grip, so the likelihood of you dropping it or whatever is going to be less. This is a very, very slippery phone. Battery life is insanely good. I'm not sure what people complain about when they complain about iPhone's battery life. This gets me through 2 days. And I'm still in the kind of honeymoon phase. I like to play around 3D games and stuff because I like to see just how quick this phone is. So I'm really pounding this thing to bits. And it's lasted me 2 days, 1.5 to 2 days, depending on what I'm doing. The battery life is incredible. I'm getting about, I'd say 4.5, 5 hours screen on time, which is, in the Android world, that would get a lot of praise. So I'm not sure where people get the whole stigma of iPhones have terrible battery life, because this is probably the best battery life I've had in a phone since probably the Sharp Aquos Crystal that I had a couple of years ago. The home button, well, the home button, what can I say? It is what it is. I still prefer, although my finger and my brain has kind of got used to it now, I still much prefer having a physical home button. I do think it's Apple. They're kind of putting a half step in because they're going to get rid of the home button altogether next year. That's my thinking anyway, if the rumours are anything to go by. Yeah, I've kind of got used to it, and it doesn't really bother me at all. It's perfectly fine, and it allows for like super quick action because nothing is actually being pressed down. But I still prefer a physical button if it's face down, because basically all of the feedback through the home button is being fed through the Taptic engine on the back through your other hand. So you press that down and you feel it in your other hand. You don't necessarily get the feedback through your finger. So when it's on a table or something and you're just pressing down, you only get a tiny little bit of feedback through your finger. So you don't know if you're pressing it or you're holding it. So it activates Siri sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't press at all. It's still an inferior. It's still inferior to having a physical home button, in my opinion, anyway. And yeah, that kind of also leads into the whole 3D touch thing based around the Taptic engine. The Taptic engine, it's cool, and for little things like, for example, if you're in, if I create an alarm here, doing that is one of the most, go into an Apple store right now and do that, because you will be just entertained for the rest of the day. It is so satisfying. The little clicks you get, and when you're like pulling down the notification tray and it bounces off the bottom, little things like that just add another dimension to the OS, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the 3D touch feature, but the 3D touch feature is still a bit of a gimmick in my opinion. The only real time I ever use 3D touch is doing exactly this, going into mobile data and turning mobile data on or off, so it doesn't eat through my data usage. But aside from that, I really haven't, for things like opening new tweets, because of how fast the phone is, it's just as quick to go into the application and then click new tweet anyway. So for little toggles that you usually have to go through like 3 or 4 menus for, it's useful, but aside from that, it's still a bit of a gimmick. Although the Taptic engine, overall, on the whole, it is a welcome feature. And yeah, the last thing I want to go on to is the speakers. Now, although stereo speakers in an iPhone is great, absolutely great, and they do sound good, and they're much improved over the 6S, they are uneven, basically. The bottom firing speaker is significantly more powerful than the top facing one. So when you're playing a game or watching a video or something, getting really intense into this game, you still feels like the sound is pouring out of the bottom of the phone, which is a bit crap. And it's a very un-Apple thing to do. They made a big song and dance over the stereo speakers in these new phones, and to have them basically, at first I thought it was a faulty phone, and then I went online and actually searched it up, and well, yes, the bottom one is more powerful. It just seemed a bit lazy, to be honest, because there is space up there to put a more powerful speaker in. It just seems a bit lazy, and it just seemed to be a feature that they stuck in just so they could whack it onto their website, if that kind of makes sense. I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm sorry for keeping you for so long. This is a great phone. I am kind of just, my brain is blocking out how much I paid for it, which is probably a good thing. But over the course of 2 years or however long I'm going to have this, I'm sure it'll pay for itself. It performs great. It's built like a tank, although it is a bit slippery. The battery life is great. and yeah, it's just a lovely, lovely device overall. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.